Viewer discretion is advised. Your fave will be criticized.
That's Chris.
That's Jan.
And welcome to CCTV, the nonstop pop show.
And today we are delving into pop history and learning about some of the American pop divas of the 2000s.
If you're wondering who we are, Chris and I have a huge range of experience in the music industry, from performing on stage to working at record labels. So we have a lot of insight into the crazy music industry. And if you've made it this far, please subscribe to our channel, give us a like, and for our lovely listeners, a rating and a review on your preferred podcast platform would be very much appreciated.
Yes. All right. So television and film has always been a successful launch pad for artists. And the pop divas we will be discussing in today's episode are great examples of that, because it is really hard to get your name out there, right? When you're a new artist, because it's such a competitive industry. So when you're able to launch a music career after people already recognize you, that already gives you an advantage. So even if your music's not great, even if the talent isn't fully there, you still have a much bigger chance than kind of anyone, than like a peasant would have. So, but the real question is, does it give you longevity, right? So let's find out. And let's start with our first artist, Hilary Duff.
Hilary Duff rose to fame as the leading character in a hugely successful Disney television show, Lizzie McGuire. She appeared on the soundtrack for the show and the movie, but her first official solo album release was with the Christmas album, Santa Claus Lane. And then she signed a record deal with Hollywood Records shortly after. In 2003, Hilary released the Metamorphosis album, which had bops including So Yesterday and Come Clean, and she achieved worldwide success.
She did. And so though Metamorphosis did extremely well, and Hilary did go on to star in many successful films after the end of Lizzie McGuire, the next album, which was the self-titled Hilary Duff, did not reach the same success as the first album, and the single Fly failed to gain attention. And the following releases through the second half of the 2000s included the compilation album Most Wanted, which did go to #1 on the Billboard Top 200, and the electronic dance-inspired Dignity album, which I still think is her best work. But it wouldn't be until 2015 that Hilary would sign a new record deal with RCA Records and release the Breathe In, Breathe Out album with the lead single Sparks, which unfortunately neither did too well commercially either. So what do you think of Hilary? Did you like her as a pop star?
Yes. Okay. So here's the thing with Hilary, right? Like, I remember all of her albums. Like, the Hilary Duff, the Lizzie McGuire soundtrack, and the Metamorphosis album. I know it. I even know the title track. Okay, Metamorphosis, whatever it is. I was out here. Come on and give me a kiss. I was like, yes. And on top of that, when she came back with Spark 6 years ago, I was like, oh my god, I like this. It's cute. It's fun. It's lighthearted. But I guess at the time, that's not the way that music was going. I mean, it's tough when you've made music and had success early on, and then trying to kind of get back into it. It's like, oh, how do I find my footing? I think that song is like underrated, but I mean, she released a fan demand like music video version. So I guess the fans still love her. Awesome, good for her. But what about you? Were you like a Lizzie McGuire, Hilary Duff fan?
I wasn't. So it's interesting because I did grow up in Hong Kong, right? And our Disney Channel wasn't the same as I think it was here. Like, I think we were just a couple of years behind because of, just because of like licensing and all that stuff. And so Lizzie McGuire wasn't something I really knew about or really paid attention to. And I think by the time it kind of got bigger, I was already a little older for it.
Right.
So I kind of really only knew her just kind of as a pop star, really. Like, I didn't really know her from before that. So I remember Come Clean really well. I still love Come Clean. I think it's a great pop song. But I'm going to be honest, I didn't really pay attention after that. I was working at the label when Hilary got signed at RCA. So I remember that campaign, and I agree. I actually think Sparks is really great. And I think there are some great tracks on the album as well, but it just wasn't right for what was going on in music at the time. And I think her fan base wasn't there to kind of drive it. So,
what? Right. We were all too young and broke, honestly. I mean,
yeah. And I think it's tough. I think the whole kind of nostalgia thing, like there's a really it's hard to capitalize on that when you're releasing new music, you know, because you want to show that you're growing, but then you also want to get your fans back. And so I think, unfortunately, I think she wasn't able to kind of get her entire old fan base on board.
Yes, it's tough, especially like either they stuck with you or they kind of moved on to someone else, right? It's tough for sure. She released movies where she sang and they weren't the greatest vocal performances of her lifetime, like Raise Your Voice. She was in a classroom for Raise Your Voice and she was singing, and you can obviously tell that whoever was her vocal double had a stronger, maybe a little deeper, like the voices were just different. It was like she started singing like A, B, C, D, F, G, and then H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. And I was like, where did this voice came from? Like, where did this voice come from? Like, everyone was really confused. So I think things like that kind of just started, like, people stopped taking her seriously. And then she released a joint album with her sister. And it was just like, it's too much.
I don't know if she's the best pop star. I think she has great charisma, which makes her a great actress. But I'm going to be honest, I'm not sure the talent is fully there as a pop star. But she has some great tracks. So I appreciate that.
Yes. I mean, even with what she's doing now, she's doing pretty well for herself. Sitting her doing the With Love dance break. She's gone viral again. So that's
great. I appreciate her acknowledging that. That's pretty great.
For sure. And what else is she doing now? I mean, like, she's working on some shows. I think she's just acting mostly. Like, she was on Younger. I remember watching her on that. And then the upcoming How I Met Your Father, which is exciting.
I'm very excited for that.
Yeah. So good for her. I'm glad that she's sticking to acting, and if she wants to kind of do a little toot-toot-loo here and there, then so be it.
I also want to say, I have to give a shout out to her husband, Matthew Koma. He's one of my favorite people I've ever worked with. He is such a nice guy. His management is also amazing. They were amazing to work with.
That's great.
And in connection to that, I'm sure Hilary is also great as a person. So just wanted to shout that out. But I think her most famous song, right, is Come Clean, which was written by Cara DioGuardi and John Shanks, who are both great names. And I think people still love that song. I still love that song. Let the rain fall down and wake my dreams. Let it wash away my sanity. What do you think of that song? Do you think it has stood the test of time?
I think so. You know, I think what made it special was that it was kind of deep for like a Disney star, you know, like we were used to hearing a certain kind of sound, but this one was about a relationship. Like that whole album was about like her coming into her own as a young teen woman and a young teen lady, excuse me. And I thought it was really impressive. I love the video where she's like at her house and, you know, the rain's falling down. She's against the window. I'm like, look at this drama. Okay. You want to feel the thunder. She wants to scream. I was like, these are lyrics. This is the vocal performance isn't the strongest, but the lyrical content, the production, everything was just right.
Agreed.
But speaking of which, she actually did have some beef. I mean, pop diva beef is typical, right? The next artist we're getting ready to talk about, oh man, honey, they were fighting over the most strangest of people at the time. And that is Lindsay Lohan. All that being said, before we get into the music thing, I have to say, so in the early 2000s, right, Aaron Carter and Hilary Duff were like kind of, you know, schnogging a bit, but then they kind of broke up. And then like in a case of like overlapping F-boy magic, Aaron Carter started seeing Lindsay Lohan. And I was like, oh my God, because I remember Aaron Carter being in an episode of Hilary Duff's Lizzie McGuire show. And I was like, oh my God, they're so cute together. So I thought they were like a forever thing, but jokes on me and jokes on everyone else. So like they kind of started beefing a little bit because of that, and then they already had like a little like tabloid fueled beef because of their similar career paths. But honey, Aaron Carter, the little I want candy pop boy, caused a feud between these two lovely pop divas. Messy.
You know, I had no idea about this. This just shows how like uninvolved I was with these like American stars. Because none of them were really that big in Hong Kong, like honestly. I kind of just knew about them like from the magazines and stuff, but like, yeah.
Wow. What about like Lindsay's movies and whatnot?
Oh yeah. I mean, I loved Parent Trap for sure. Loved Mean Girls. I mean, I knew of her. I just wasn't as connected to her, I think, as like other people were here in the US. Anyway, let's talk about the music. which is what the show is about. So as we mentioned, after she starred in those Disney movies like The Parent Trap, she started getting rave reviews for all of her work. She is a really, really great actress. She's done some really great work. So she was able to capitalize that and she began making music. So she first signed a 5-album record deal with Gloria and Emilio Estefan's label, but after it was terminated, she signed with Casablanca Records.
For her movie Freaky Friday, Lindsay recorded Ultimate, which was released to Radio Disney to help promote the film. And after that, she released 2 studio albums finally. In 2004, Lindsay began working on her Speak album with the singles Rumors, Over, and First being the singles on the now platinum project. And then next, she would release the gold certified, A Little More Personal, Raw in 2005. This album was a darker sequel that was tentatively titled There's Only One Angel in Heaven, which is really interesting. So she was definitely trying to take a darker tone. So yeah, what are your thoughts about Rumors, Over, and First? Like for me, again, because of like the attachment to her, because of like the movies and like me just liking her. And also, I love a ginger baddie, and she was the ginger baddie of the 2000s. Like, let's give her her flowers. So yeah, I was always like really interested in her. So what about you? What did you think of her songs?
Yeah, I appreciate. Well, first off, I think Rumors is great. It sounds like a Britney Light, track. And I like that she was referencing kind of all the stuff she's going through with the paparazzi and with the tabloids and kind of all the crap like everyone was saying about her. I think it was tough at that time to have that transparency. And so I think it was refreshing to have, a young woman come out and talk about that.
Yes.
I think she's one of those people where I think she makes an interesting pop star because I do think she has an X factor of some kind. Like I can't fully place it because she's also, it's not like her voice is amazing. It's not like she's an amazing performer, but she did have a hand in writing, a lot of her songs.
Yeah.
And you could tell that she really did put a lot of effort and heart into it all. So I appreciate that. I think for me, I appreciate her work more now, actually, than I did at the time, because I think it was so overshadowed by all the tabloid drama. I think that actually took away from her talent a little bit. But it's been interesting kind of revisiting her work so many years later.
Yeah, you're right about Rumors. I remember when Rumors came out, I was like, oh, yes, a tad of Rumors side. And it was like a little like dance break moment. She didn't really dance, but I remember Over being one of my favorites too, because it's like a breakup song. And even though I wasn't like dating one, I was like, look at her. I mean, the whole pop rock sound was really popular at the time. And she really went right into it. And she looked great in that video. She has beautiful eyes. And whoever directed that video, they were like, oh, get in them. She's like, oh, crying. Oh, yeah. And she's singing her heart out. She's like, tell me. She's going in. But the last single First, it was used to promote Herbie Fully Loaded. Did not watch that movie. I wasn't interested at the time. But I felt like, sound wise and like, popularity wise, I guess I really wasn't paying attention. I mean, I don't even think the songs actually did anything substantial except maybe topping the chart of, I think, the bubbling under 100, and I think that was for Rumors. I think it was, but yeah, again, she's not vocally amazing, but I think with her next album, A Little More Personal, the fact that she was even more transparent with Confession of a Broken Heart, even though it was a little, even though it was a little, I don't know what's the word, exposed, I guess, her life to people. It was something that was really rare to see from a Disney expat,
I kind of wish she continued with music after that. I understand like commercially it wasn't the most successful, but I think it would be interesting. I hope she does return to music at some point now, like as an older woman. I think it would be interesting to kind of see what she would do. Because I think the potential is there.
I agree. I mean, daughter to father. I just call it daughter to father. I actually liked that song. And I actually used it to choreograph a competition dance when I was like several years ago. It was a very popular dance, I might add, because it was so dramatic. But yeah, I mean, it it depicted the tumultuous relationship she had with her father, Michael Lohan, who had been incarcerated in June of 2005 after surviving a DUI crash. And the song actually did hit the charts at 57. So I mean, that's a good thing for her. It's very poignant, it's very passionate. I just feel bad that even with this song and her being so transparent, she almost kind of fell into the same habits that her father had developed. I mean, with her whole life being a child star, I guess it was mildly inevitable. It's traumatic to be a child star, especially when you see people like Allison Stoner talking about all the trauma that she's been through as a child star. So I mean, Lindsay Lohan quickly became a huge topic of all the tabloids due to her personal struggles and legal troubles and substance abuse. And then she went to rehab, and then all of a sudden, because of all these things happening to her, her movies were hits and misses. And she was featured on some tracks here and there, like Danceophobia with Duran Duran. And she was recently on a panel for Masked Singer Australia, but there hasn't been anything of note. But in 2019, she did resign to Casablanca and released Back to Me, the lead single off her third album that has not been titled yet or mentioned since. But hey, I'll take it.
I'll take it. Yeah. I think, again, it will be interesting to see if she's able to capture the attention that she needs, I think.
Yeah.
Or that she, to like be successful. Because I think, unfortunately, her name is still kind of stained a little bit. So.
Yes. Like synonymous with drama. And speaking of drama, the next artist we're going to talk about is someone I'd never expected to get embroiled in as much drama as she is right now.
So our next artist is Tyra Banks. So she began her career as a model at the age of 15, and she was the first African-American woman to be featured on the covers of GQ and Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue. She was also a Victoria's Secret angel from 1997 to 2005, but she is probably most well known for hosting America's Next Top Model for 23 cycles, as well as her own show, The Tyra Show, for 5 years. And throughout the 2000s, she was one of the highest paid models in the entire world. And she was able to capitalize on that by not just becoming a music artist for just a short period of time. She was also an actress. And so you've probably seen her in Fresh Prince, Coyote Ugly, and of course, Life Size with Lindsay Lohan.
Woo! The first time a lot of us may have seen her was in 1991 when she was first seen in Michael Jackson's Black or White video, where she was effing up the choreography. Like she didn't know the choreography. Even I know it at this point. But yeah, if you remember seeing that little goofy girl with her tongue out, that was Tyra Banks. All right. And then later she appeared in music videos for Tina Turner, George Michael, and Lionel Richie. And in 2004, during one of her cycles of America's Next Top Model, Tyra released her first single, Shake Your Body Buddy, with the music video featuring contestants from A&TM's Cycle 2. That was pretty exciting, I guess. I mean, considering who worked on the track, Rodney Darkchild Jerkins. And I just have to say, we talked about Rodney Darkchild and his dark children in our Forever Spice Girl albums review. So be sure to check that out. And if you're listening, be sure to listen to it because we went in depth and we had a good time. But all that being said, she hasn't really released anything since, except maybe like Bootyful at one point.
Yeah. Well, so I during the research for this, I did see that Tyra has done an interview more recently where she talked about her very short-lived singing career and how she really she was retiring from modeling and she wanted the rush of still performing, like being on stage. And so she felt that the best way to continue that was to do a singing career. So there wasn't a real passion for singing, that just kind of was her way of still trying to figure out how she could still perform.
Wow. Thanks.
So yeah, I think it's interesting. Yes, the single had a great producer on it. She also did work with other producers like Pharrell Williams and David Foster, like huge names in the music industry.
Right.
On theme with this episode, she was able to capitalize on her name and her exposure to just get in with these producers, because let's face it, she is not a great singer. She can't dance.
Oh,
you know, like, so she lucked out in the sense that she got to work with them. But I think she also mentioned in that same interview that her confidence wasn't there in the studio. So it ended up being kind of a struggle overall. So yeah, this is just one of those situations. It wasn't meant to be, but she did put forth a good effort. I'm going to be honest. I don't think Shake Your Body is terrible. I think if you gave it to like a Sierra or, someone who
or
actually
J-Lo.
is a pop star, I think they could sell it.
Yeah.
I do remember the America's Next Top Model episode where the other girls had to like shooting it. That's probably better than the actual song and video itself. So yeah, I think at the end of the day, she tried it. So
yeah, this is true. But hang on. Hang on. Can I just say, viewers, listeners, Chris completely disregarded my Tyra Banks notes. Like, y'all don't remember the video? She's laying on the floor and she's like, oh, like she don't remember laying on the floor. It's great. Honestly, it's absolutely great. It's pop goodness. Like, she was really living her best pop diva life. She was dancing in that video. Not great. But Ginger Tyra at that time, killing the game again. I mean, I'd have to say her vocals were a lot better in this song than it was in Shine Bright, Shine Far, Be a Star. So yeah, I mean, the growth is there. Let's be constructive.
Sure.
But I'm glad that she knew that, hey, I shouldn't do this and I should not waste people's time and money and my money, but since then she has, I guess, been more of a business-minded person. She's had a child via surrogacy. Good for her. I think she's always wanted to have children, so that's good for her. She's been very involved in communities and wanted to uplift people. But unfortunately, lately she's been getting dragged all over the internet for her behavior on America's Next Top Model and even on her own talk show. So, I mean, she's issued an apology, but right now, all these videos keep on coming out. So, with that being said, unfortunately, that just stinks for her. But she is also, on a positive note, she's done America's Got Talent, and she's now the host and executive producer of Dancing with the Star. Yeah, Dancing with the Stars is not bad.
To be fair, though, I don't think fans were happy that she was chosen as the host of Dancing with the Stars. But I'm going to defend her a little bit with the ANTM everything and Tyra Banks show stuff, because it was a different time. People have to realize now is a time when everyone is so sensitive about everything, and people are always digging stuff up from the past. And it's like, look, at the end of the day, that was accepted back then. Yes, we agree. That wasn't great, some of the stuff that she did to these women. But we've learned, and society has moved on. Why are you trying to ruin her for things that she did 20 years ago? You know what I mean?
Going forward, she has not done anything. I know what you mean. I
so
agree.
Give her a break. Give her a break. That's what the culture was like at the time, and that was what was expected of her. And let's be real, I watched ANTM. I think I've seen every single cycle. You did too.
Hello.
We enjoyed it at the time. It's just is what it is. Culture changes. So
completely.
I don't think that's fair that she's been getting that much hate for everything.
Agreed.
Anyway, back to the music though. She wasn't meant to be a pop star. Good for her for trying. But with the next artist, do you think she should continue music?
Oh, totally. This next artist went from basically everything that Tyra did, and honey, she has created an empire separate from her own last name. So I think she should. Final pop diva of the 2000s is Miss Hilton, and you might know her as Paris. And Paris is the great-granddaughter of Conrad Hilton, the founder of the Hilton brand of hotels. And she was a tabloid darling and found fame as a model. But it was the launch of a reality television series, The Simple Life, that catapulted her into pop culture. pop culture as we know now,
Mhm.
right? But she was known for her dumb blonde persona. And I mean, honestly, if you don't know her and her saying, that's hot, you're tripping, you're lying, and you were living under a rock. Sorry, Patrick Star. But as we later learned in her documentary many years later, she was putting on that character, that whole facade, and it really capitalized on the fame and the brand that she built. And
Mhm.
now is, I guess, just eating off of now. Like she's doing great.
She is, yeah. So with the music, she was able to found her own label, Eris
Mhm.
Records, which was a venture with Warner Bros. Records, and she released her debut album in 2006, and it had contributions from huge writers and producers, including Scott Storch, Fat Joe, Fernando Garibay, Cara DioGuardi, and Dr. Luke. So,
Dr.
like,
Puke.
yeah, like Tyra, though, she was able to use her name, use her connections, and
Mhm.
she was able to kind of launch herself as an artist, which is pretty awesome.
Even though the gods are crazy, even though the stars are blind, if you show me real love, baby, I'll show you mine.
Though the single Stars Are Blind and the album did quite well commercially, she hasn't released any music after that. Though she has teased a
Yeah.
return to music, and there have been little glimpses of it, and she actually is now a successful DJ as well.
Yes.
So what do you think of Stars Are Blind and her album?
So the album isn't bad, right? It's one of those things where it's like, I think because she had enough money and had the proper people vocal producing her, she doesn't sound bad. Even in certain singles that she released, she sounded decent. Almost to the
Mhm.
point where it's just like she kind of sounds better than maybe the three people we mentioned a little bit, because her vocals were either really processed or they never pushed her past a certain point. It was very
Yes.
whispery and layered, so it was complimentary. So maybe she didn't sound better, but she was produced vocally, probably produced a little bit better than Tyra. Lindsay, maybe not. This is not a pop-off episode, but be sure to look at our pop-off episodes where we did discuss, who has the better singles and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, it is pop goodness. I do have to say that what song was it? Stars Are Blind. Stars Are Blind was not like my favorite song ever.
Mhm.
It wasn't. And then the music video for Nothing in This World was really weird because she was like the sexy girl next door to this young teenage boy, and she was like singing in his ear and stuff like that. So I kind of avoided all of her
Yeah.
stuff for when I avoided her when I was younger. I never disliked her. I won't say that. I never disliked her. I just didn't have any interest. But like when we did research for this video, and then months ago when I watched her documentary, I was like, yo, she's dope. She's actually really smart. She's a great
Mhm.
businesswoman. I mean, at the time when she was releasing all of this, she had the reality shows, Paris Hilton's BFF, the Simple Life, her book, her extensions, her perfume. Like she literally was like, okay, my granddad did all this stuff. I'm trying to go above and beyond right now. Like she made a name for herself, and I respect it for sure. What about you?
Yeah, I think she's an interesting one because I remember really disliking her as a child or as a
Uh-huh.
teenager. Like
Uh-huh.
the whole dumb blonde thing was so annoying, and it was supposed to
Mhm.
be, right? But
Yeah.
I I found it really annoying, and I think the whole idea that she was literally famous for being famous,
Nothing. Oh,
like you know what I mean?
right.
Like she was literally
Right.
famous for, yeah, just because she was in the tabloids and stuff. Like she didn't actually do anything to become famous. And so
Right.
um I think it's interesting looking back. Like I rewatched the YouTube documentary over the last
Mm.
week just to, have it
Yeah.
fresh in my mind. And the
Mm.
fact that she was actually very conscious of her image, her public
Yeah.
image, and she was very
Yeah.
aware that she was kind of playing this divisive character, but that divisive
Mhm.
character allowed her brand to expand into literally every space she could possibly want. She was on TV, she was in films, she did fragrances, she has a skincare line, she's now a DJ. Like it's kind of
Right.
amazing what she's done with her
Right.
career. And
Right.
knowing now that she did actually go through a lot of abuse as a teenager, and that
Yeah.
she's using her influence to now speak with members of the Congress and actually make
Yeah.
social change. Like it's kind of amazing looking back now.
Yeah, it's like a paradigm shift.
Yeah, but at the
Like,
time,
what?
I thought she was so annoying.
Right.
I think Stars Are Blind is very annoying as a song. I think
Yeah.
there's much better tracks on the album, but I do agree they knew how to use her voice. She's not a good singer, you know, but
Yeah,
she
she's
but
better
they knew
produced.
where she sat that would be the best for her voice. So I appreciate that. They didn't try to get her to do ad libs and belting and runs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Unlike
No,
Tyra,
you're
where
right.
she was trying it.
Oh,
You know,
oh.
and even Hilary and Lindsay, you know, they
Yeah.
push. There are certain parts in
Yeah.
their songs where they're pushing harder than they should be, or you know, that then is comfortable. So
Yes.
yeah, so I do appreciate that. And
Mhm.
also I think Paris, she actually has since released a music video for the song Heartbeat,
Oh,
which is a
yes,
song from the
that's right.
2006 album. So it's kind of awesome that she's still going back and embracing that. And
Yes.
it would be interesting to see what she would do if she came back.
Yeah.
I think now, not to like, I don't know. I think with the current music industry, you don't really need to be a great singer. Like,
No.
good vocals are not as valued as
No.
they used to be.
I want a sugar crash. I don't think it matters.
So I mean, she has the funds to make like a viral music video. You know what I mean? Like she could do something crazy and people would watch
Yes,
it.
she
And
could.
and
Oh,
so
yeah.
if she wanted to return to music and do it properly, she definitely has the resources to do that. So I am curious what she would do. But yeah, I think in general, I respect her a lot more now as a business person, just as a woman in general.
Right.
And yeah, it's kind of interesting, kind of looking at her whole career.
Yeah, for sure. No, I agree. Like I said, I was very indifferent to her. I didn't care. Like I was looking at Sierra and like, you know, a bunch of other like black pop divas. So I wasn't paying attention. But now, like you said, with the show, you kind of like look at her career in a retrospect and it's like, oh, you clever little minx. Go ahead, girl. So congratulations to her, by the way, for getting married and tying the knot. Because again, even in that documentary, you saw all of her laptops that she had thrown away because of passive breakups or dramatic things, and even with her own, you know, tape coming out. So she's been through a lot, and I think she is definitely someone who sets a good example. Like you don't have to be defined by what you did in the past, and you can do better. So everyone, leave Tyra alone, okay, and leave Lindsay alone. Give her a chance.
Yes, agreed. All right, so that wraps it up for this episode. Leave us some comments. Hit us up on our social media accounts at CCTV Pops. Let us know what you think of these 4 pop divas, and who else do you like? What other divas should we talk about? Please give us a like, subscribe to our channel, hit the notification bell, and for our listeners, give us a rating and review on your preferred podcast platform. Until next time, that's Jan.
That's Chris.
And we are CCTV.
Bye. And the stars are bright, baby.